Okay, so we have an update. Excuse me. Yesterday was our follow up from all my blood tests, my intrauterine ultrasound, my HSG. What else was there? And then Chris's sperm analysis. So we had gotten his sperm analysis back before this appointment, so I kind of knew that he was not having any issues, which honestly is great. Told him he could rub it in my face, which he didn't, so good guy, I guess. So we had our appointment yesterday with Dr. Zoltan, and she said that all my labs were completely normal, within normal range. My tubes were open, so that's fantastic. She also said, I think I had 18 follicles. She said that they like to have at least, I think she said 14. So that was great. She's like, so you're ovulating? And I'm like, well, okay. We talked about PCOS. She's like, I don't think that you have PCOS. She said you have to have 3 of the factors, and she listed those off. And I have 1, which is acne, and I have a little bit of hair, right in here, and you can't ever tell. It's not like some women have such high testosterone that, it's like a beard. Mine's not. Mine's just a couple stray hairs, and my grandma has that. I've seen my aunt have it, my mom, my sister. So, and then acne, I do have, there's a couple spots that a lot of them are healing now. It was really bad, and I think it was probably because of stress. So anyway, she's like, I don't think you have PCOS either because you don't meet the criteria. You have to have 2 of the 3. And she's like, you only have 1. She said, plus your AMH, anti-Müllerian hormone. She said, normally women with PCOS have a 5 or higher. And mine was 1.96, I think, which she said was in normal range. So she's like, I don't really think that that's what you have. So I'm like, well, that's fantastic. I didn't have anything on my ovaries. She's like, your ovaries look great. Your tubes look great. All of it. She said Chris's sperm analysis came back. There was 104 million. She said, and when we do anything like IUI or IVF, we usually lose about half of that. She's like, so honestly, we have to have at least, she said, I think 5 million or something like that to have success that for them to implant. And she said after we would wash if we did something like this, she's like, and we would wash Chris's sperm to put inside you, she said we would still have 35 million. And I'm like, holy crap, that's fantastic. And so we're just kind of like, all right, so what's the deal? And she said, after looking at everything, she said, unfortunately, I just have to give you the diagnosis of unexplained infertility. Which was weird because I was beating myself up. And so I felt some relief. However, it's for me, I don't like unexplained. I have to know what's up. When I had my gallbladder surgery, I toured the hospital where I might have to stay because I needed to know. When I've had any procedures done, I've watched videos. I need to know. I don't want to have to question anything. I don't like the unknown. And unfortunately, this just leaves us in the unknown. She has no idea, why this is happening. So it was bittersweet because I'm like, oh, it's not my fault. And then I'm like, it might be my fault. I don't know. I just don't know. She said, I'm trying to remember what else she said. We talked about she said normal people who have great labs, who don't have any diagnoses or anything like that, they normally have 20% chance of getting pregnant, naturally, just they check their ovulation, they have sex, they get pregnant 20% of the time. To me, it's that's just insane. has it decreased over the years? I mean, and how is it that these Amish women like pop kids out every year? Like, I don't get it. I don't get how it's only 20%. And yet I see like all these kids in family. I don't know. It's crazy to me. It's absolutely crazy to me. I don't get it. She stated with the unexplained infertility, then it goes down to about 11%. Great. So basically we have like no chance of doing this on our own. We talked about the ovulation kits that I was using to predict my ovulation. I explained kind of the issue I was having with them. And when it came down to it, she said, so my recommendation would be to at least start with IUI, which I had to look up because I'm like, what's the difference between IUI and IVF? Well, there's a huge difference. So basically with IUI, I would have my period, and then I would start Clomid, to help me produce more eggs. So I have more of a chance. Cause she said, basically it's a numbers game at this point for us. And she said, that does increase the risk of twins, or multiple, she said, but we're really careful. I didn't tell her that twins run in our family. My dad is a twin. His twin is still alive. My mom was a twin. She was a twin in the womb. Unfortunately, the baby was stillborn. And then my first cousin on my dad's side, had twin girls, without any like treatment, like naturally. So I didn't tell her that. I mean, I'm not opposed to twins. I cannot do triplets. I know it stresses Chris out, but, I tell him, I'm like, you don't understand. Like, this is the first baby on our side. Like, we're never going to see this child. If it's one kid, we're never going to see this child. If we have two, we have a better chance of at least holding one. But in all seriousness, I mean, I know that my family will do anything to help us when we bring a baby into this world, whether it's one or two. And so I'm just really not stressed about that. Like it stresses him out. And I think it's because of his past relationship when, they had Linnell. He did most of it. He was on his own. And he doesn't want that again. And the only way for me to tell him, or for me to show him that I am a mom, or will be a mom, and help and do everything that I'm supposed to do is by having a baby. Like I already pull my weight around the house. I do a ton of stuff. I'm always cleaning, cooking, making sure he has what he needs, getting groceries, working, taking care of the bills. So like, it's not like I don't do anything already. So there's no reason for him to think that I wouldn't, but I just know like he's nervous and I get that. So anyways, basically, as I stated, IUI, I would have my period, I would start Clomid, and then I would have a trigger shot. So my trigger shot would be like an extra boost to get the eggs out of like down my fallopian tube. And then once that would occur, and I'm not exactly sure like the days and times and stuff like that, but then Chris would go in and give a sample, they would wash it. They would load it up into a catheter. So basically like the same thing like an HSG, which was super uncomfortable, but it is what it is at this point. And so they would put the catheter all the way up directly into my uterus, to basically meet the egg and then have his sperm, because there was no issue with like his sperm shape or anything like that. There was no issue with that. Because she said sometimes there's a reason why the sperm can't get to the egg. So whatever that reason would be. And then from my understanding, she didn't tell us this, but from my understanding, like you basically have to wait the 14 days then and do some checking. She said people normally do 3 cycles of that and then they turn to IVF. IVF through them is like $25,000. Like it's absolutely insane. And they don't offer payment plans. So it's like upfront costs. Like when we had our follow-up yesterday, it was $200. And before you even can join or the doctor joins, like you have to pay that full amount. Now, granted, I've met my deductible. And so like my blood work and stuff has mostly been covered. And so is my HSG testing because I've met my deductible with like my MRI for my foot and stuff like that. So that's been a huge blessing. And we really haven't had to pay as much as they quoted us to do all of this. So, we're super, super thankful for that. I looked up some IUI testing, or procedure treatment plans and kind of the costs, and looks about $2,000. So not horrible. We do have some savings, but we don't want to drain it all, And so I don't know. I mean, I'm like optimistic, but yet like I want to hold myself to reality, that we may still have to do IVF, and we may not. I mean, if we have to do something like IVF, like it's a one and done. Like if IVF does not work, the very first time, if we had to do that, we would have to be done. We can't afford that. We would be looking at going to New York too. We have a friend that went there and did it because it was much cheaper, but like we don't want to, we have other plans for our savings, like we don't want to drain ourselves. We want to still be able to do fun things as a family, trips and stuff like that, and potentially buy a house. And we can't do any of that if we don't have a savings, because we're not going to stretch ourselves then. We're just not going to do it. So, there's still a lot up in the air. I am optimistic. My friend that I've been talking to, who went through all of this and ended up having to do IVF and had some failed cycles, had stated that they did the IUI. It was around $1,000 for them, which is not bad for us at all. And she said, I've known people that have got it successfully on the first try. My mom just told me today that she knows somebody who did it twice, and it was just like training her ovaries to do what needed to happen. And they got pregnant. So, there's hope, but I also am so tired of the heartache that I don't want to get my hopes up. And then I go to, okay, so I get pregnant. What happens if I lose the baby? Like what happens if there's something inside that won't allow me to implant? So it's just a lot. But what we decided, after talking to our doctor, is that the month of December, we're not going to do anything. It's Christmas. We want to be able to provide for our family and just take a month to not stress, if that's humanly possible. And so our financial advisor is going to get in touch with us through them, and kind of let us know what the cost would be. I know the trigger shot is not covered at all. And I've read certain places that it's anywhere from like $100 to $200, depending on what it is, where you get it. Clomid might be covered a little bit. It'll be the start of the new year, but they should take some off, I hope. But then the actual process, like the sperm wash and then them inserting it, none of that is covered. And that's likely the costliest part of it. It seems like the most or the least invasive, even though the thought of having to have something shoved back up into my uterus, such as a catheter, sounds god awful. But we'll see. I don't know. I feel optimistic. I feel like according to my calculator, I'm supposed to potentially be ovulating today. So I'm trying to decide if I try and seduce my husband or let it go, just not worry about it. So I don't know. I did ask her, as a side note, I said, so how come my first reading showed that my tubes were blocked? And she said, well, what happens a lot of times is the uterus starts contracting so much because there's something up in there that it's not used to, that it clamps. And so the fluid can't go anywhere then. And she said, the second reason is we're a lot more, I think she used the word aggressive. She said, if we see that there might be something in the way, like we're going to push that fluid and try and get it through. Do I think that it hurted? Do I think that it hurt as bad as the first one? No. And I'm not sure if it's because my uterus was more used to it or the Valium that they gave me. It didn't feel like Valium didn't feel like it did anything with my mind. But I'm guessing that she actually gave it to me more because she wanted my body to relax, which I think it did. So I don't really know what the reason is, but I'm thanking God that they're open. That's fantastic. Just the news that we got in general is fantastic. It's just the why. Why is it unexplained? What is going on? When you say everything is perfect and everything is in line and I don't have PCOS and my husband's sperm is perfect, why? Why are there Amish families walking around with 17 kids? Chemicals? Am I exposing myself to things that I shouldn't? I don't know. Yesterday I was super optimistic. I'm still optimistic today, but I'm just a little frustrated more today. So I don't know. We'll see. But December, we're taking off. So unless something crazy happens, which could, because, God's in control and I'm reminded of that all the time, especially through this journey. Yeah, we probably won't update until like the first part of January. So I don't know. We'll just keep praying and have fun, I guess. I don't know what else. So for Thanksgiving, day before Thanksgiving, super thankful for the ability for me to be able to do these tests and get answers, and for medicine, and for my support system. So it's going to be a good Thanksgiving. Yeah.